Hello. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Bunt, Draft, and Pray podcast. I am your host, Pedro Barbosa, and I definitely didn't just intro the wrong song. It was the right one. And with me, I have my co-host and good friend, Mr. Earl Goddard. Hello, Earl.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm fine. I would be better if I didn't mess up like this. At least I didn't forget to start recording. So that's a plus.
If you stop telling everyone, they wouldn't know.
No, I like for everyone to know how bad I am at my...
Professional we are.
Yeah, professional or unprofessional. Yeah, and today's episode is Mariachi Tires. The tires that warm you with a good song and then leave you with nothing.
Okay.
I think it sums up the race. Goodbye.
Right, podcast over.
Podcast over. So, yeah. Well, this week was the Mexican Grand Prix, and we were kind of hoping for something. At least I was kind of like having a Mexican driver and being a track unlike any other because it's a very high altitude. So I kind of thought that Red Bull might not be that competitive straight line wise, because the theory from previous years was that they were so good on this track because of their turbo configuration, the turbo being a little bit bigger, I think, and them normally using a less RPM in the turbo and all that stuff. I pretend that I know what I'm talking about, but I don't.
Keep going with it, it's fine.
And that they were able to, because of the thin air, they were able in previous years to spool it up a little bit more than other teams, so they had a little bit of headroom on the RPM of the turbos, and because of the thin air, they were able to still keep it cool, and so basically it was a little bit more efficient in Mexico than other turbos from other engine manufacturers. But as we went on to qualifying, it proved to be a little bit wrong, because Mr. Max Verstappen was able to do pole position, much to the anger of the Mexican fans. They are crazy. It's almost like Japan, but I think it's even crazier because
tequila.
Yeah, more tequila and less polite and less respectful of boundaries, let's say. I think everyone was complaining about that. Every driver was complaining about that because they were being mobbed in the pit lane, basically, and they couldn't even get to their pits while going to the track. So, yeah. Still pole position for Max. It was a good lap. They weren't able to ride the curves as they would probably like, or were able in previous years, but he still got it. It's almost basically 3/10 from Mr. George Russell. We got second place, and Lewis Hamilton third. So the Mercedes were more competitive this weekend, let's say.
I think George was on a lap that was comparable to Max's until he had did he run wide?
I didn't actually see, but I saw that he did a green and a purple sector in sector.
Yeah, I think he was about 2 or 3 tenths, and then he had an issue, or either ran wide or possible lap deletion, so I had to back out of it, and I think that's where he lost a couple of tenths. Yeah, nice to see them.
Actually, even Hamilton complained about, I don't know if misfires or whatever was happening with the engine, and he complained about it all weekend, that the engine was cutting out, so Maybe
Not like Lewis to complain.
no, Lewis. No. Don't talk bad about Lewis. We don't do that on this podcast. We are Hamilton lovers here. And then Sergio Perez in 4th place. Then we had Carlos Sainz in 5th. Then Mr. Valtteri Bottas doing a better time than Charles Leclerc. That was a mega lap from Valtteri. And then
Valtteri's always been quick there, hasn't he? Even when in the murk he was quick there. He obviously likes the place. Proof by where he ended up.
Yeah, and he still has one track that he likes after we're not going to a certain track in a certain country that we don't like to talk about. And then in 8th place, Lando Norris, then 9th, Alonso, and then 10th, Alpine, the other Alpine of Esteban Ocon. So, and then 11th place, I was only going to talk about until 10th place, but just the 2 Alpines separating both McLaren drivers. So, yeah. Daniel seemed to find something here that he didn't have on previous occasions. At least it seems.
Yeah, he definitely seemed a bit more comfortable with the car. Why? I don't know. But something's there with, as proved, and as we'll see later on.
Yeah. So let's go straight into the race. We'll talk about the whole budget cap thing in the end, I think. It's not. Let's just run through these. I was going to lie and say eventful Mexican GP. It was kind of eventful. We have a few incidents to discuss and talk about.
Yeah, not the most exciting GP, but then it always has been a bit. Unless you've got one car that's particularly faster and coming through on the different tyre, it's not really Yeah, and this time we could actually, because we were all watching live, because it was in the evening here, we were actually commentating on a few stuff on Discord while the race was going on. And one at a certain point I just wrote 2021, is that you? I guess it was really similar to last year's race. I think even with the new cars and the new floors, it just seems that you get in the DRS train and that's it.
Yeah, and the DRS is actually not as effective here because of the thin air. So
they almost need a longer DRS zone, even though they had 3 zones, but they needed that main straight. It wasn't long enough quite. So just they could tweak it a little bit and probably get a lot more racing, especially down into T1. Yeah,
and it's not only the DRS that it's not as effective. Drafting is not as effective. So today's podcast should be called Bump
Not effective
podcast, because we almost had no draft. And that's all because of the thin air. Mexico City is very, very high. Actually, the other one, I think Sao Paulo is the same thing, Interlagos.
Yeah.
But they are different tracks. So the Sao Paulo track is a little bit more old school, let's say, and more like a flowing karting track. So it might create, actually, I think it's going to be a very good race in Brazil. I predict it's going to be a good race, because it's good racing. Even with the old cars, we kind of had the main straight, that is not really a straight, but let's call it main straight, and the back straight. They're 2 very good opportunities to, and with the S's and the lack of grip in the S's, it's always interesting. So let's start. The race was going to be 70 something laps, 79 laps, 71. Yeah, I was supposed to have put that here, but then I forgot. We had the C2, C3, and C4 tires. So the middle ones, it's 1, 2, 5. So we have the middle ones, and almost the more prevalent tire was the soft, but it was kind of a mix-up, and we had both Red Bulls on the soft tire, starting on the soft tire, and both Mercedes on the medium tire. And like I said in the beginning, tires are going to be key on this Grand Prix. It's the talk of the Grand Prix. So yeah, it's always fun to talk about tires. So we had the start, and Russell had I thought it was a horrible. He had a horrible reaction time, but then he was able to just gain on Verstappen. I'm not sure how. Maybe he had more grip in the second phase of the acceleration. I don't know.
Yeah, he did. I mean, it wasn't a bad start. I think obviously him being on the mediums gave Max that little bit of an advantage if they got exactly the same start off the softs. So it wasn't. I think the more interesting bit is that he didn't. Max forced him to the outside down into T1, which sort of messed it up for him.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, like you said, if Max just swerved in to the right-hand side, and he was basically forced to go to the outside. Hamilton was on the outside, then went in for T1. And Hamilton had a very good start, actually. And then the first 3 corners are like right, left, right, so almost like a chicane-looking thing, a weird thing. Like they are almost 90 degrees, all of them. So it's like a 90 right, 90 left, 90 right thing. And then Hamilton was able, because he was on the outside, he was able to carry a little bit more speed, and then just pushed. Like it was a little bit.
There's nothing there. That was.
But it's racing.
It wasn't anything. It wasn't harsh. It wasn't. The problem is George just got himself out of position, and then he was fighting to get back into position, bouncing over the curbs, losing traction, and which then, as we saw, gave Checo a run on him down the next straight.
Yeah, because there's a big straight on that after that, and then there's a left-hander, right-hander, and it's like Mexico, the first part of the track, it's almost carbon copy every corner. Yeah. So it's slow corners to long straights. So basically, this track has one very big straight, then the second one is a little bit, and then it has a flat out, not really straight, but then it goes to a little straight where the third DRS zone was. So,
and not really straight.
Not really straight. It's one of those. We kind of tend to say, like Interlagos, we say it's straight, and we count straight from the supposed to be
Junção.
Yeah, Junção. Let's talk Portuguese, right? You have a Portuguese host. Yeah, you can call it that. I'll teach you a little bit of Portuguese one day. Not just the swear words.
Okay, in trouble.
And so yeah, we kind of call some straights not straights because they are basically flat out corners. That's, if you're confused a little bit, that's why I call it straight not straight. Not really straight. So yeah, and then so by basically the T4 we had Max, Hamilton, Perez, and George.
Okay.
And then the 2 Ferraris. Yes, we had them.
Yeah, they were
there.
They were battling quite hard with each other that first lap.
Yeah, it was nice to see. And Bottas had let's say, the most confusing start that I've ever seen. He seemed to not want to race with anyone. I don't know if you saw it, but it just didn't. It lifted like in the middle of the straight, so just let everyone pass and then go behind them. It was really odd.
Really strategy.
Yeah, that strategy got him far. So yeah, that was basically lap 1. And the telling thing about this this race was that I have lap 1 here, and then the next lap that I have anything, it's lap 12. So
Mexico GP,
and my notes on lap 12 is everyone seems to be managing pace. Mexico GP.
It was, wasn't it? It was well, they said they spoke to Alpine and before the race, Alonso, and he went, "I'm in tyre conserve mode from lap 2." That was the whole thing. It was push on the first lap, and then as soon as it's then, he's on to conserving to run long.
Yeah.
And we love Formula One, we love racing, but is this racing? When from lap 2 of a 71 lap race, you're going, right, let's manage. Just and you've got everyone. I mean, everyone from Max at the front was managing his softs, trying to let's see how long we can make it work to get the strap working for them. It's just, but then the race brings that out of it, doesn't it? Particularly this one is.
We can't really fault the drivers and the teams for that, because they just want to win the race or do the best they can. But
yeah, but it doesn't make for interesting racing when you know that they're not going to be racing.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's hard. I think it's the tires have given us good races this year, but
I think they brought the wrong tyres to this track.
Yeah, I think so as well.
They needed to go one softer on them just to bring the hard tyre more into it, because I think there was some seriously long runs on the mediums.
And on the softs.
The softs, they were saying 15 laps is good.
Vettel pitted on lap 40.
Exactly. And he wasn't dropping pace massively.
Yeah.
He was consistent. So I think they needed to bring one step lower, softer on the compounds to make it so that the soft tyre, if you did 40 laps on the soft tyre, you'd be 3 laps down. That's what the problem we had here, I think. Right, there we go. F1 sort it out.
Yeah, cheese tires again. We had 3 and 4 stops. It was like 2011, 2010, 2011 that we had the cheese tires. Yeah, we need someone to mess up in the pits. That's what we had. But before that, we had an incident between Gasly and Stroll, where Gasly just in the second straight, in the end of it, he went on the inside and just ran. He even got out of the track. So how do you see that incident? Because there was actually a penalty.
Oh, it was 100% Gasly's fault. He just drove him off the track, and which is, he went for the maneuver, and that's fair enough. But he pushed him wide. He didn't back out of it. If he'd giving Stroll the place back instantly, it would have been fine. Yeah. But
I was surprised they didn't do that.
I think they chose the option of let's keep pushing and take the 5-second penalty and get out of traffic.
Yeah, I don't know. That didn't.
Which they ended up getting a 5-second penalty.
Yeah. So yeah. At this time in the front we had Max, and then Hamilton was able to keep up with him in the medium tire compared to the soft. And Max's engineer, don't remember his name. I think I don't know.
Lambiasi.
Yeah, it's that one. Yeah, that one. Just told him to break the toe to Hamilton, and the next lap he did the fastest lap of the race. So yeah, very conservative on the tires. Yeah, it was crazy. No racing at all. Then on lap 23, Max actually says that his right front, I think, was, or left front was gone.
Left front,
yeah, was left front, and I was expecting him to just come into the pits next lap, but it was actually Perez that did that, and that was the mess up that we had on the pit stops, because it was really driver human error. They couldn't really do the right front tire that well, and he lost massive amounts of time on the pit stop. So
yeah, the guy had it at the wrong angle, didn't he?
Yeah, he wasn't able to put it, and then he struggled a little bit. It was just a messy pit stop. And the next lap, Max comes in, has a perfect pit stop, and drives out, both of them in the mediums. And Bono tells Hamilton, target +6. So at this point, I wasn't sure, and the Portuguese commentary wasn't too. And with the Portuguese commentary, I'm talking about Felix Acosta, who was commentating on this race as well. So it's nice to have finally someone who knows what he's talking about on the Portuguese commentary. And yeah, he was just unsure if it was the target that they had the tires +6, or target was code for your lap that you are now +6 laps, because they talk a little bit in code sometimes between the driver and the pit wall. So yeah,
I think that they would have obviously beforehand they would have had a lap 20 or lap as their target, and then they're figuring like extend +6.
Yeah, because he only did 4 laps after that. So
yeah,
either it was target and target was already passed, or I don't know.
Quite possibly, yeah. You never know with him, though, do you?
Yeah. Max complains about shifts again for like the 4th race in a row, and Hamilton complains about engine cuts. So I don't know, are these drivers just way too sensitive right now? So everything always, because in current Formula 1 we are not that used to mechanical failures as before, that we have many of them. Are these drivers just now so in tune with their gear and not used to it running 100% that they just complain about everything? Or are these cars doing something?
I think so, because I think it must be a little bit of obviously wanting to be maximum performance and it to be perfect, because it's distracting if you're feeling a glitch, and more than anything just probably letting the team know that you're noticing it in case they haven't spotted it on data, which they've probably noticed before you have.
Yeah.
Is there also a little bit of drive to survive, because you're telling the world that I'm struggling, I've got an issue?
Yeah.
I think most of it is they're so used to it being perfect that when it's off by a couple of tenths or a couple of hundredths, you notice it, because it's just, oh, why is it doing that? And by getting it out there, if they have any problems, they can go, well, I told you. So it's kind of covering their own back a bit.
These days, drivers are not getting excuses in the end of the race, but in the middle of it as well.
Yeah, pretty much.
What you say, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Right.
How many times in a race do you hear Lewis particularly?
Oh, that's a meme.
Complaining about his tyres. Okay. it's like, oh, these tyres, oh, what have you done? Sets the fastest lap and wins the race. Obviously, in previous seasons, not this one, but
yeah, but
there is yeah.
That's one of those that nobody really cared about since, like, what, 2016? Nobody took notice of. So I don't know. Maybe it's just to give options to Drive to Survive to put it into various episodes. Just to give them a little bit of a different accent or something like that. But yeah, it's starting to be ridiculous, that part. Was starting because he hasn't really complained all like that. He complained a lot about tires this race, but not from that angle.
Everyone did.
Yeah, everyone did. So yeah, so Hamilton then came in at lap 29, and full disclosure, I'm not going to even talk about Ferrari because it was Carlos and then Charles. They were nowhere. They were 4 seconds apart from the first pit stop, and yeah, it was I think
it's rumored that they obviously had reliability issues, so they turned the engines down just to get through and avoid issues, penalties, and blow-ups. So it was I mean, they maximised what they could out of best of the rest, but yeah, they were just not at the same race.
Yeah, and it was interesting because Ferrari and Haas had problems and were noticeably slower on the straights. Alfa Romeo, in the other hand, were mega. They seemed to be very good, actually. And in the beginning, I really thought that Valtteri he seemed to be faster than the Alpines and all that stuff. So, and all of those drivers. So I really thought that he was going to be the best of the rest because he seemed comfortable. The way he was driving, it was very smooth, and he was following easy Alonso. So how much of that was real pace and then something happened to the tires or something like that, or just Alonso playing games? Because we know that he can't do that.
No, Alonso doesn't play games.
So yeah, Hamilton in at lap 29, and then Russell just tells Mercedes, let's go very long and go for the soft and not the hards, because they have to change tires to another compound unless they're going 2 stops. Yeah, and that was taken to heart by Mercedes and given a big no. Come into the pits and get hard. And at lap 34. So, yeah. And we'll talk about this decision later. I was really, at this time, I was basically telling you, I don't really get why Mercedes isn't splitting strategies between the two drivers.
Yeah, they should have by that point. George had compromised himself from the start and was behind Checo. So, yeah, I mean, on Mercedes thinking purely about championship position versus Ferrari in that and maximising point, he would have still finished 4th even if they'd gone soft, hard, medium, soft. It didn't matter. He could only have gone forward. He wouldn't have gone backwards.
Yeah.
Lewis, we was, they committed with Lewis, and but yeah, try something different.
Yeah, that was my feeling that they should have done. I think that at this point they had nothing to lose because the Ferraris was so much slower. The only noticeable part about Ferraris this weekend was their fight on lap 1 and slowing down a little bit Perez because of his bad pit stop. He came out behind both Ferraris before they pitted. That's just gotta get that. And he had to pass them on track. And I think that was what made Sergio's race come undone. At least my opinion. I think it could have gone
bit of traffic.
A little bit. Yeah, it was just traffic. So talking about Ferrari about being just traffic, it's funny. So yeah, and then at lap 40, like I said, Vettel was speeding from softs to mediums. That was very, very impressive. I mean, Vettel is driving very well, very well. Even with a car that was not competitive here, he was still able to keep good pace with the soft tires for 40 laps. 40 laps. It was crazy. And it didn't get much in the end of the race, but yeah, basically. And Danny Rick came into the pits. I think it was lap 46 or 47. I don't know because I didn't put on my notes. And he was on the mediums and went to the softs. And everyone was like softs with so many laps to the end, but yeah, it kind of worked for him.
But I think didn't they see Vettel was running them still, so there's like they can obviously work.
Yeah, they can work.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah,
sort of thing. That was a Danny Rick one. It's like, just give it a go.
Yeah. And he came out and he was in a tussle with Tsunoda, and they crashed into the second right-hander after the second straight. Again, how do we say that? Incident? Because I heard a few opinions on that.
It was Danny Rick's fault. He went for the gap down the inside, which there wasn't that much of a gap. But with such a short jump between the previous corner and the one they were heading into, he didn't get fully alongside. So Yuki was fully in his right to continue his line, because it's sort of it's two corners, but it's one double apex corner, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
The way the line is, so he iRacing sent it up the inside, expecting Yuki to pull over and move out the way, and he didn't, and ended up going over his front left.
Yeah, that's the balancing game that I think we have in especially Formula 1 right now. You can't really do that just because of the nature of the corner. Just compromise 100% the next section just to get alongside and expect the other driver to just get away.
And he wasn't alongside though.
No.
He was borderline halfway. It was never enough for him to go, this is my corner.
Yeah, and I think the only reason that he hit with this tire just in front of his front tire just past Yuki's rear tire, because I think it was because of the angle of the car. So if you're not completely with the angle of the car, so if the angle of the car is not, if the corner is that way and you're going like this, yeah, you're not. That's good podcasting. That's good podcasting.
His hands up again.
Yeah.
He just so I think it was. He ultimately ended up getting a 5 second, 10
seconds.
10
That's the second
penalty.
part of the.
I think that might have been a bit harsh. I think it was 5. It was a 5 second penalty incident, but I think they may have upgraded it to 10 second due to the fact that Yuki retired from the race due to a suspension issue. But
the FIA and the stewards don't consider the consequences of what happened in the penalty.
No. Okay, then. The only reason I can think why they would go 10, but.
Yeah, I know what I mean. It's just, and Felix Acosta was actually saying, his comment was, yeah, he got the 10 because of the consequences, but yeah, the FIA is always hammering us about not caring about the consequences, just the incident counts, but it always counts. They always take everything into account. It's just basically talk.
They have to.
Yeah, and let's be honest, I think Russell's incident or if you compare both of the incidents, Russell's incident didn't get a 10-second because it was basically a restart, probably.
Yeah.
Because they were kind of similar incidents, kind of.
No, that was. This one was 100% Danny Rick's fault.
Yeah.
And the Austin one, Sainz was maybe not 50-50, but Sainz played a part in that by leaving the door open for the cutback. So he put himself in a position he shouldn't have. He put too much.
In that incident, the corner is a little bit different, so it's they're comparable, but not. And we have a comment on YouTube basically saying, "And hi, Mr. Pinto, it's too much common sense for the FIA to consider incidents outcomes." Yeah, but they can't say one thing and do another one. So yeah, just be clear on what you're doing, and don't say one thing and then do another one. Basically, it's what we ask. So yeah, at this time, Hamilton was complaining about his tires. That was not the right choice, and we kind of agree with him, I think. Although,
pretty much.
I am on the opinion that Mercedes never had a shot to win this race. Never. Didn't matter the strategy.
If they had gone medium, and then softs at the end, I don't think it would have been any different to what I think. Let's be honest, Max in Red Bull at the moment had them covered. What he was able to do on the softs, it was a given. They put him on a more durable tyre. He's still going to have the pace over them.
Yeah.
So the only thing they could do was go, right, throw the hards on. Let's see if we can get them to drop off and catch it back. But as soon as you saw what sort of pace length they were running on softs, it was like game over. It's now just a case of waiting for them to go, it didn't work.
Yeah. And the only reason that Sergio didn't get second place, I think it was because he dropped back behind both Ferraris and basically damaged his tires trying to get to Hamilton, because he had to pass both Ferraris, and then he lost so much time for Hamilton. Even if you don't count the 10 penalty he had for being stopped so much time in the pits. So it was like a double whammy, and then he had to catch up to Hamilton, which he got close. He got almost into the RS at some point of the race, but he could see that his tires were getting too hot, and he backed off for a couple of laps, and then he tried again, and he got close, but never he could never get close enough to do anything, basically.
No, but then they're all struggling controlling heat in the cars as well. So, like you say, push lap, batteries, everything, and then have a couple of cool down laps, and it's just. That's why this race is always boring, because it's a race about conservation of everything. Tyres, batteries, temperatures, brakes.
Yeah, it was tense to see what the tires are going to do, but we always had in the back of our heads that nothing's going to happen, really.
Yeah.
Something did happen. Mr. Alonso started to go slow, and then I think it was the electric part of his power unit went kaboom.
Something came out the back of that car. You see it?
White parts. Yeah, it was like strange. It was not a engine blow up like we usually see. It was a little bit weird. And that was into turn.
Not ideal.
Yeah. And what proceeded to happen was very funny. His reaction, he got out of the car and started waving and complaining about gesticulating, and then 2 seconds after that he was waving to the crowd. So yeah, I think he's had enough with Alpine for quite some time now, but
he's checked out. It's almost the McLaren Alonso, except the car's a bit more competitive.
Let's keep on talking about Alpine and and Alonso, because we have someone watching that is in pain. Let's rub a little bit of soft salt in the wound.
To be fair, they had a good week. They both qualified Q3. They were running well. Okay, we know from the start Alonso was playing the conservation game, and if there's anyone that can do it, there's not many better than him.
Maybe the one that didn't have any option. It was Sergio. He couldn't really do anything.
Yeah. So, no, I think they ran well. Ocon, again, is solid. Another solid race. Nothing. He had a cracking move round the outside into T1. Can't remember who it was on.
I think it was on Valtteri, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was Bottas, yeah. But yeah, around the outside, that was nice.
Yeah.
They're good. It's just, they seem, obviously, their engines are their weak point at the moment. After a few races back, they had a double engine failure. A couple of races back, so.
Yeah, and at this time we had a very fast Daniel Ricciardo for a change on the softs, with a 10-second penalty, trying to do the best he could on the tires like with the 10-second penalty that he had, and he was flying that man. He was in anger.
One pissed off honey badger.
Yeah, he pissed off the honey badger and is going to bite, let's say. Yeah, he was passing everyone. He was on better tires, let's be honest. It was on softs, and the softs were like the only thing that we...
The right tire.
Yeah, it was softs and mediums, either way you put it, were the best option, let's be honest.
Yeah, to finish the race, I think at that point he was on the right tyre, so low fuel loads, gripped up circuit, and softs, and a little bit of aggression. He was driving well. It was nice. It was nice to see. It was nice to see the old Danny Rick, or flashes of the old Danny Rick.
Yeah, because it was gaining like 1.5 seconds per lap to Ocon. It was mega. It was really, really fun to see. And he was actually able to get 10 seconds past Ocon, which basically made him best of the rest. So,
yep.
Nice to see. A little bit painful for a Lando fan to see him in the wrong strategy. Basically, mediums or softs to hards or mediums to hards. Can't quite remember. So it was basically nowhere. But yeah. Yeah,
but then he's had him on the rest of every other Grand Prix. He's been ahead, so let Danny Rick have this one.
Oh, I let Danny Rick. Last year celebrated his win at Monza, and Lando wasn't allowed to even fight with him. So yeah, but I was happy. I actually like Danny Rick very much. He's not going to where I think it.
Perfect for IndyCar. We're going to keep pushing that.
Yeah,
we'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen. That's like a Grosjean move that he's only going to do road courses, and then he gets the oval bug. I don't really... I mean, I understand, like, oval racing in an IndyCar, it's very dangerous, let's be honest. They're going at insane speeds in a flimsy car. Let's say it's an open wheeler. I know they are very safe these days, but yeah, I kind of get what he means, but he's a massive NASCAR fan. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a difference in the super speedways in NASCAR, they're touching 200, but Indy they're doing 230, 235 on a push lap. I mean, that's
average.
Miles per hour.
It's 232 to 233.
Yeah, miles an hour, not kph. Miles. That's just ridiculous. So I can see why they get scared of that, because a lot can go wrong very quickly at that sort of speed.
Next year, I'm going to do the Indy 500 in iRacing. But it looks...
Do it.
Let's do it.
Do that and NASCAR. Daytona 500.
Mr. Nuno, are you with us? in the 500. I know you are. So yeah, of course he is. He is a oval fan as well.
We'll give him a livery. We'll give him an Alpine livery.
Okay, I'll do it. So yeah, then Russell stops for flying for the fastest lap, 1 lap to the end, and he was able to get it. With the conservative tire strategy that everyone was doing, I don't think that it was even a single drop of sweat for him to do the fastest lap. Yeah, just put it set us up. I think it was
a couple of seconds he took it by, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah, it was crazy. it was actually crazy. So yeah, he free pit stop. He just did it, and yeah, he got the fastest lap. So Max won his 14th win. Win number 14 is the driver with the most wins ever. And for those of you complaining about
in one season,
yeah, in a single season, and for those of you starting to shout at your mobile phones or at your computer saying that Michael didn't have many races like he has 70% of the race wins of the season, and the season hasn't finished yet, and Michael's best one was 72%, so he's not far off and probably going to get it.
Let's be honest, isn't it? Mechanical issues or crashes, he's going to win at least 1 or 2 more, isn't he?
Yeah.
If not all of them.
Yeah, I don't see anyone.
I think you'd be a strong man to bet against him.
Like I did for this race. I didn't put money on it, but yeah, I had Sergio's back. Yeah.
But you were going to the fairy tale.
I was going for the fairy tale.
Everyone was. They would, Sergio in Mexico, it would have been great, but I think as soon as we got to quali, we knew there was no chance. Unless Max had an issue, there was no chance Sergio was going to beat him.
Yeah, and actually they put that question to Max in Austin. I think it was with Sergio just beside him, and they asked him if he would move over for Sergio to win, and he just said, "No, we're racing. I want to win every race that I win." It was just a categorical no. I'm not going
he wouldn't have won 14 then, would he? He'd still be searching for 14, so he won't give it up.
No, I don't think so. And actually, Sebastian Vettel said that he hoped that he would get the 16. Now that he's beaten him, just go away and win all of them.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah. So in the end of the race, we had Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Sergio Perez, George Russell with the fastest lap as well, so 13 points instead of 12. Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo being able to keep his 7th after a mega last part of the race. Esteban Ocon, Lando Norris, and Valtteri Bottas. So that's our top 10. So yeah, boring race. It's not going to be one of those ones that we're going to watch again anytime in the future.
No.
So yeah, news. Let's go on to the news. One of the first news that we have to talk about was basically the end of the budget cap saga. Aston Martin got a financial penalty. They had to pay $450,000.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that because they basically said it was an error in accounting, so I kind of thought that they didn't really pass, but they did. And it was confirmed that Red Bull had passed $2.2 million the budget cap, and their penalty was $7 million in as they had to pay up, and 10% less time in development. This is CFD and wind tunnel.
Yeah, for next season.
So what are we thinking? Is this what you expected and what you think is right? Would have done?
I think they needed a penalty or something, and the FIA almost needed to not make an example of them, but make it difficult enough that it's not just £500,000 fine and carry on, because every team would do it then with the money they have at their disposal. I think they could have gone a bit higher than 7 million and, into double figures, so 10 million plus, just to really iterate that it's not acceptable. And I think 10% in the wind tunnel is going to cost them quite a lot, development wise. They could have gone stronger and lifted that up to maybe 15% to really scare off the other teams, but I don't think many teams will. I think everyone's going to be on top of it now, because clearly the FIA are going to have to get this grey area and sandwiches and the catering bit sorted out. And because Red Bull are saying they had someone in hospital that they had to pay sick pay to, and that wasn't accounted for. And they're coming up with a lot of variables that
unused parts.
Yeah.
They have a couple of front wings that they didn't use. They didn't even bring to the track that were accountable.
And so I think the FIA just need to tie up the loose ends with the grey area on the regulations. But I think they needed, as long as they've got a penalty. If they didn't give him anything, I would have been pissed off.
Yeah.
Because it's blatant cheating, whether you call it how you read the rules, which they all do, but they went over it. That's the bit that's frustrating with the FA at the moment. The budget cap is X amount of million, not X amount plus plus minus 5%. It's a hard line. So you go over it, you get fined or penalised. Simples.
Yeah, it was basically. Yeah, I'm in the same vein as you. It was about the type of the penalty that I was expecting. So financial plus a development cap. Yeah, I think they could have gone a little bit harder as well. But I really think it's enough for teams to really think about it.
Think twice.
Yeah, think twice about it, because I don't know if they are doing something in the vein of, if you do it 2 years in a row, it's going to be even higher. So, you know what I mean? So if you do exactly the same thing the second year, instead of 10%, it's going to be 20% or something like that for the next year, or if it's just singular accounts. I
think they're going to have to do something if people are repeat offenders.
Yeah.
Repeat offenders to a similar sort of amount and continuing to win, then you have to start questioning how much is this sandwich money not helping them, is actually helping them. If they're winning 2-3 championships in a row and going over the budget by 2-3 million every year when everyone else stays in it, you have to start saying, right, no.
Yeah, the financial part of the fine, to be honest, from 7 million to 10 million or 15 million, I don't think it would make a big difference to the big teams. The only thing I think financially would detract someone from using it as a strategy would be doing it, the amount that you passed over, you're going to times it by 100, and that's the fine you have to pay. I think that would be the only way that they could really financially detract teams from doing anything. So because let's be honest, 7, 10, 15 million for Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari, it's pocket money.
Nothing.
it's pocket money. They were operating on the 400 million range. So you can all imagine how my for example, Red Bull was already doing that, and then they signed the deal with Oracle that brings I've heard almost $150 million of sponsorship. It was a crazy amount of money. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think that financially you can.
You can't hurt the big teams.
No, you can't hurt big teams. You can only hurt the small teams. So yeah, the CFD and wind tunnel is the only way you can make it really happen. And let's be honest, probably Red Bull are the most equipped to maybe kind of being able to not be that penalized, because they have Mr. Adrian Newey that doesn't even use a computer and still designing F1 cars. So he kind of has an idea how things will work. So yeah, but I think it will hurt them a little bit. It's not going to hurt them half a second a lap like Christian Horner is saying.
Claiming, yeah.
No, that's not going to happen. But it's going to hurt enough that they will not want to do that mistake again. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They are already saying that they are on to the cap. They are not going to go over like last year. So yeah. Second thing that we might talk about is tire blankets. They were all complaining about that as well. That they can't handle not having tire blankets, that even going 70 degrees or whatever it is this year.
I think they're going from 70 down to 50.
Yeah,
so,
next year. Yeah.
Down, yeah, or allegedly. All the drivers are complaining, saying they don't like the idea, basically.
I'm struggling to be respectful here. I'm really struggling because F2 you don't
they'll
have
be
it.
They'll be using the argument of it's safety, but it's not. Like you say, F2 IndyCar, they don't have it. It just means you're going to have to drive the car a bit differently for the first few laps. It's just, you're not going to have a perfect car every time, which is sadly what the drivers want.
Yeah. That's why I struggle to find not
go back to the old school.
words.
Just go back to how it should be. No tire blankets.
Yeah.
Done.
But they are aiming for that. So it's 70 degrees this year, 50 degrees next year, and then 30 in 2024, and then in 2015, no tire blankets. That was the plan.
Yeah, but why don't they just go
take them off for next year?
That's it. I mean, let's be honest. If they turn around to the teams and went 2024 or say 2023, no tire blankets,
deal with it.
Ambient temperature only. No ovens, because I know like the sports car teams use tire ovens. So no tire ovens. They have to be stood in a open area. However, come up with some parameters for them. Done. If you don't do that, you can't race. Yeah. Simples. I guarantee you, they'll all be driving with cold tires and be fine.
And let's be honest, if they want to be carbon neutral like they say they want, they have to do it. Because it takes a huge amount of energy to use those tire blankets. Yeah, for sure.
I just don't get why they have to roll it out over 5 seasons. These are supposed to be the best drivers in the world. Yeah. Come on, just get on with it.
Yeah, and that actually disappointed me that Max was one of the most vocal about it. Disappoints me a little bit. How do you want to be as great as you say that you want to be, and then complain about a little thing like that?
I suppose they've got these cars, they've got such a fine window for operation and so reliant on tyre temperature, tyre pressure, that if you're 1 or 2 degree out, the car's a nightmare, whether that be higher or lower pressure. So I can understand how it's not going to be optimal, but
drive slower.
So what? You know, manage the tire. You spend a whole race managing your tire wear. Now you have to manage your tire temp. You're going too fast. The car's not handling. Oh, you're going too slow. You need to push. I think they should just ban it.
And if you're that good, you will gain with it, because the bad drivers are going to overcook their tires on the first lap. Because if you try and warm them up in a not natural way, you're going to burn all of the surface rubber, and they're not going to get the tire temp, like the internal tire temperatures that you really want. So you can ruin your tires by warming them up in a bad way. So the best drivers at managing tire temperatures are going to be very much favorable to this. So, and I think actually Max is one of those. We normally see him as this basically cutthroat racer, nothing else. But let's be honest, he's mega on every aspect of racing. So you can manage it. Yeah.
I think they're saying it because they just want to keep it because it makes life easier. But I think this is where the FIA is bad, because you don't give them an option. You tell them.
Yeah.
And they'll all do it. There we go. Done.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. 100%. Yeah. Let's just continue so that I'm not that I'm not, I don't say anything, something I regret. And the first time that we get covered is because I said something horrible, so let's just continue. So yes, the other news that we had was and just today that Mr. Stoffel Van Dorn is now a Aston Martin test and reserve driver. And I actually think that might give us a idea of what's going to happen at Haas. And this is my prediction. I don't know. I think you agree with me. I think that Mr. Drugovich might have a deal with Haas. Do you agree?
It makes sense. There's a Haas seat sat there empty. Drugovich was or had recently signed as the replacement driver for Aston.
Yeah.
Now Stoffel signed as the replacement driver and test driver for Aston. Meaning
for
next year. So it means Drugovich is either been booted out and is left F1 for good, or he's going to be driving the Haas. We'd like to think that. I would personally would love to see him in. I think he's, of the F2 drivers that are around, I think he's worth a shot. Big style.
Yeah. I if he's booted out of F1 without even driving an F1 car, almost, I mean, just scrap Formula 2. Just throw it to the garbage. I don't know if that happens. I would be, unless he's found somewhere else to race that he really wants to go, like Formula E or something like that, and he wants to change his career, and it is his decision to do that I don't see happening. You're not Formula 2 world champion and there's a seat available, and then
exactly he's 1 foot in the door in F1. After all these years of trying, he's not going to just go, I'll go do Formula E.
Yeah.
He's either been pushed out or there's something afoot that will hopefully be made public soon so we can go, yay.
Yay. So for the
and then
first
what
time...
that does is that sort of leaves a space for a reserve and test driver at Mercedes then, Stoffel.
Yeah. There's already, because Stoffel is not going to be there next year.
Exactly.
So that might bring up a certain Mr. Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, so considering he's adamant he's staying in F1 and he doesn't want to go, and he's potentially looking at... We won't go the IndyCar.
You said the word.
But yeah, he's saying he wants to stay in F1 and he wants to be in a competitive car. Well, he's not going to race one, but he can at least test one.
Unless we got this entirely wrong and it's Drugovich that's going to Mercedes and Ricciardo is going to race at Haas.
I don't know. After all he's talking of, he wants a competitive car. He's not done with it. But I don't think he will class the Haas as a competitive car.
Let's be honest. Ricardo is never going to drive another F1 competitive F1 car.
Yeah, but does he know that? Has he accepted that yet?
I don't know. There's actually talks about Hamilton continue to drive in Formula 1 after 2024. And that he may continue for quite a few years. So,
we'll see.
I actually think Hamilton should just... unless he really, really cares about that 8th championship, and it's like if he doesn't do it, it's going to be his biggest regret of his life, and he knows that. I don't know.
I think if he had won last season, I think you would have seen it.
Yeah,
he would have disappeared off. I think there is a little bit of the ego in it that he's tied with Schumacher. I think the fact that he's there and it's like, I can do 7, I can do 8, and I can be the greatest ever. I think there is a little bit of ego there that will push him on to...
let's be honest, he's already the best ever. The only stat that he has... okay, but another world championship is not going to do that.
No, exactly. But in his head, it might be.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always uncomfortable about comparing drivers from different eras of Formula 1. I'm always
can't.
And I mean, there's actually people that argue that Stirling Moss was probably the best driver ever. Even Stirling Moss doesn't even have one world championship just because he was so good, but never had as much backing, let's say, as Fangio. Fangio was always the number one driver wherever he went, and it was a different time where he could, if his car failed, he just took another car and went and won the race. So yeah, I don't know. I really don't get it, but I'm not a world champion, so I can't really.
No, we all admit Lewis is one of the greatest. Yeah. I think the terminology of the greatest, I don't think you can do the whole GOAT thing anymore, because it's just too. Because let's look at it currently. Another 3 years, Max could be a 5-time world champion. And all of a sudden, is he the greatest? Well, he's the greatest of this era because he's won all the championships.
Yeah.
Is he better, like you say, than Fangio? Is he better than Jim Clark? Never won it, but one of the best drivers ever. And then you start going into your Sennas, your Mansells, the modern 90s era.
Yeah, Mansell is one of those that he was always in the wrong time, at the right teams at the wrong time. And because of that, he only won one championship, I think. I wasn't a viewer at that time. I'm too young for that, but I love. I was born in '87, man. How do you expect me with 2 years old to be watching F1 live and knowing stuff?
You need to be committed.
No, but I really like history. I'm not as hardcore as Vettel, knowing all of the champions in order, knowing who was champion in every season. But I like Formula 1 history, and I watch a lot of documentaries about basically every notable driver. And there's because back in the day it was different. It was a very different sport.
Because I wanted to say, I think the question was asked of Murray Walker in an interview who he thought the best was, and I'm sure one of his answers was Nuvolari, who's even older when Grand Prix racing first started. So how can you compare someone that used to drive in a pigskin hat and goggles in an old car with a Spitfire engine in it versus Lewis Hamilton, who's driving the most up-to-date hybrid technology car ever. You can't compare them.
Yeah,
they're all great in their own right.
Yeah. For example, Jackie Stewart retired very young for how the drivers would do their racing back then. Retired because he thought it was enough.
Well, he was smart.
Yeah, he's a very smart man.
He was smart when you think in those days you went to more funerals than you went to weddings.
Yeah.
And when you're burying your race mates and fellow racers one a month, whatever the statistic, it was ridiculous. People dying, it was like, yeah, okay, see you later, I'm out.
Yeah,
I've won it.
And he
I'm
went
alive.
on to basically being one of the most prominent figures for F1 safety.
Yeah.
The work that he did was amazing in those years where I think some drivers would even drive with an open face helmet if they could, or a pigskin if they could, because it was that kind of daredevil mentality. So you can't compare. So that's why I kind of see it as not pointless, but I would love for Lewis not to get the chance to do a Schumacher, then coming back and doing nothing basically, or something like that, or going out in a down. I would love him to go in and up, like us remembering the last part of his.
We don't want him not to disparage Ricardo, but we don't want to see him slowly driving a Haas and then leave F1.
Yeah. Not that Lewis is going to do that. He's going to stay at Mercedes and then he's going to retire for good from motor racing.
Yeah. He's going to be a DJ.
And a clothes designer. Actually, I think Ricardo was probably going to be a DJ more quickly than.
No, Lewis has got.
He likes
out
music, but I don't think that
and
DJing is his jam.
Well, he might not be DJ, but he's a music producer then.
Yeah. Talking to apparently,
but apparently he has stuff out there under a pseudonym already. It's Hamilton, but I just don't know what the pseudonym is.
I don't know. I'm a rocker. I mean, I have a traditional instrument just behind me, but I'm a rocker at heart, so I don't really. I listen to almost everything, but pop is not my jam or go-to jam. So I don't really. I'm not one of those guys that is with all the current things on mine. So I don't really know what. But I've heard that he has a pseudonym and some stuff out anyway.
Doing something.
Let's hope he's the next Childish Gambino or something like that. I don't know. We can only hope that he. I just want him to go out of the sport gracefully. Let's say it like that. As much as I'm not a big fan of Hamilton, I still would like to see him going out gracefully from the sport and not. Because the more seasons that he is in Formula One with George is going to be worse for his image, I think, because I think George is the real deal, and as he's shown this year that he's the real deal, and he's going to.
He's only going to get better.
Yeah, massively. I think next year is going to be a very good year for him. If Mercedes, if Mercedes has a good car next year, I would almost bet that George is going to have something to say about the championship.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, Lewis, if you're hearing this shit podcast with 3 or 4 viewers and listeners, give us a like, subscribe, and go out gracefully, please. Don't do a Schumacher. and don't come back when you get out. So please don't do that. That's never right. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to talk about real racing wise. Oh, we have something to talk about. What about that NASCAR? Let's talk NASCAR, babies, just for 2 minutes. I know you have to go, but how good was that final corner of NASCAR, man?
That was if Hollywood could write a movie, I don't think even they would have had the balls to write this.
Not even Lightning McQueen does that.
Yeah, exactly. So for those who don't follow it, NASCAR have their final four. You have to be in the final four to race for the championship at the last race. Going into the last lap of the race at Martinsville, it was Ross Chastain was in P10 and he needed to beat Denny Hamlin, who was in P5. And you hear from the onboard conversation, his spotter tells him, "We've got to go, we need 2 spots." So going down the back straight, he hooks 5th gear, buries the throttle where everyone else brakes to go around turn 3 and 4, and he just puts it in the wall and slingshots and drives round the wall.
Wall riding,
whereas,
baby.
Yeah, he Hail Marys it round the wall and beats Denny Hamlin to the line by, I think, a bumper's width. Destroys his car doing it, but he's into main form fighting for the championship next week at Phoenix. I mean, you've even had Alonso tweeting today saying it's the best thing he's ever seen.
And it is. You have to be.
And just all the drivers are going, what the is he doing?
NASCAR has released a video with the transcriptions of and the onboards and transcriptions of the drivers, and it's everyone is just, what the fuck is happening, and just looking at the guy just going full throttle and does almost the lap record at the track.
I think it's I can't believe they've let it stand, because it doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like you should be allowed to do that.
There's going to be a regulation on that for sure.
As one podcast, NASCAR podcast, have said, the NASCAR podcast, apparently their official was saying the difference why they're not banning him is in other events where they wreck another driver, it's classed as dangerous driving and penalised. He didn't wreck any driver. Essentially, he wrecked himself.
Yeah.
But he didn't, so that's why they're not considering it dangerous driving. But yeah, he's probably done 50 plus grand's worth of damage to the car. But by doing so, he's put himself in the race to win the title, which will be worth millions to him and the team. So, and for Trackhouse, who have been one of the up-and-coming teams establishing themselves in NASCAR, to be in the final fours, good.
I bet iRacing, yes, yesterday was, and
everyone was trying it.
Everyone was trying it.
And people they're doing it, and they're doing the same 18.8 second lap time. I've just seen a guy do it today.
Yeah, it's crazy. He didn't have that in mind. He said, I watched his interview, and he said he did it like 15 years ago in a GameCube or something like that, or whatever it was, and it just came to his head when he was exiting turn 1. It just came to his head, what if I do that? I have nothing to lose, and then he just did it.
Well, yeah, exactly. At that point, he was going out. That's it. You're not at the big show. So you can be not at the big show and be in the wall and go, I tried, or as proved, lift your profile by 100-fold in there.
I don't follow NASCAR. I like to do some in sim racing, but I don't really follow it. And I just found out that I don't have it. I thought I had it on my subscription, Motorsport subscription, that I don't have. Yeah, but
I
I
think
really
they're
want to
pretty
watch that
good,
last
yes.
race. I will
Oh
have
yeah,
to
Phoenix.
view
Well,
that.
because Denny Hamlin's going to try and put him in the wall for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Because he
He was
in.
actually not that angry about it. In the end, he left it off.
Yeah, give it time.
It was, yeah.
Give it time.
I mean, I can't wait for the next Dale Earnhardt Jr. podcast. I think they're going to be all over that, and it's actually a very good podcast.
Yeah, no, Dale's pretty good because he's legit and honest.
Yeah.
Because no one can question his.
No.
Exactly. This is Junior. He's been there, done it, and when he says something, he's generally right. And
everyone seems to like him. It's crazy. Even those who had problems with him on track, if they go to his podcast and they just almost drink a beer and reminisce about.
I think he's the same as all of the top drivers. He's a nice guy. Put a race helmet on him.
Yeah.
Crash helmet on him, and he becomes an animal. And look at Lando.
Yeah.
He's this little kid running around that looks like he couldn't fight his way out of a wet bag. Put a crash helmet on him, and he just becomes a beast. Verstappen as well. It's just these little kids, and put them in a race suit, and that's it. They just become monsters.
I was just watching a clip of Dale's podcast today, and one of the guy, who was he? It was a guy, that famous video of someone going in the middle of the track just to throw his gloves at Dale's car. It's a very, I don't remember what was the driver's name, but it was one of the old school drivers that did it, and he was in the podcast and they were talking about it, and he was just, no, I'd never, I was very angry at that point, but I'd never had a problem with you. Your dad, on the other hand, Senior, a little bit differently.
Yeah, there's take no prisoners, and then there's Earnhardt style.
yeah, there was, a tough cookie. So yeah, that was the best thing I've ever saw motorsports wise. It was crazy. It was amazing. I'm watching it multiple times a day.
Anyone that wants to see it, just head to YouTube and search Ross Chastain, and it'll be the top one on the search bar.
Definitely, and watch it from the onboards of other drivers, because it really looks like a video game. You're just coming online and you see this car just going full throttle on the outside. It's crazy, and very much worth watching. So I have to find a way to watch legally the race next week, because I really want to see it now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely. I really want to see it now. So yeah, we have that. And the last thing I have to say, next week on Sunday, it's going to start the TWR iRacing League. It's basically me and Earl are the ones who are basically Earl, more Earl than me. It's going to start, and it's going to run 4 races in November. It's Sundays, and it's going to start at 9. It's confirmed, right? 9 o'clock in the evening, GMT. So if you'd like that, I'm going to put it in the show notes on the podcast and also in the YouTube. I haven't put it, but I'm going to add it to our Discord server. And you just go there, and there's an entry form there. So we still have some spots it's going to be LMP2 and GT3. And the first race is at Watkins Glen. Yep. Yeah, Watkins Glen Boot. So if you're interested in come racing with us, so iRacing, LMP2s and GT3s, you can choose whatever you want and come race with us. It's going to be fun. It's our first venture into iRacing League organizing, and a test thing for very exciting news for next year that we're going to reveal in a later in the year So next year is going to be very, very exciting. So come race with us. I've been your host, Pedro Barbosa. You can find me at Pedro Barbosa SR on Twitter. I haven't put, but if you search for Pedro Barbosa TWR on Facebook, there's a Facebook page. I'm going to start using that to give my unpopular opinions. I haven't posted anything, but it's all set up for that. And I've been joined by Mr. Earl Goddard. His Twitter is Earl Goddard with 2 Ds. And if you want to follow the podcast, it's Bump Draft Pray in every social media, bdapodcast@gmail.com, our email. Please like, subscribe, and all that jazz, like I told Lewis, because he's definitely going to watch and listen to this podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Goodbye. Where is the outro? Where is the outro? I really messed up. Sorry, guys. See ya. Bump Draft and Pray is an independent podcast, and the music was by Letting Punks Know.